I was like
We are
in a,
live now.
in a hypnagogic state, either falling asleep or waking up. And I said, I got to, next time I talk to Michael, I've got to ask him about that experience I had. And did he really say that happened to him too? So we're gonna
Yeah.
get that today. Oh,
Okay, I caught the tail end of some things he was saying, and I was like, Ron, who is this man? I got to find him and talk to him.
And I
And he,
said,
It's
yeah.
good to be back. It's good to be back, y'all.
yeah, and
Welcome, Reverend Carter. It's nice to have you here.
yeah, and thank you
Call me
for
Michael. Call me Michael.
I'm
thank
Nikki.
you.
I go by Esther on Facebook.
Yes.
I
Big,
go
Okay.
I
big
go by
into the Bible as well as the UFO
Yes.
incursion.
That's
So
what we need. We
could
need more.
could not wait to see you and talk to you about this.
and
Yes, this is
I go by Earth
beautiful.
Radio. I go by Earth Radio, and funny thing is when I go to McDonald's, I order my lunch, and on my account I have ERRT Radio, and the guy at the register he'll call me Earth. He'll just say Earth. He won't. He don't know why he's just calling me Earth, but anyway, that's what he called me. So,
Ron, you got to tell us again what that is.
epic
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 reality.
reality radio tour. The
I,
idea is
I swear I'm going to have to write that down.
yeah
Somebody
back in the day when I created that name I thought this was before they started having the internet everywhere. This was like right at the beginning when they started having the internet at the coffee shops, and things
Yeah.
like that. And I was thinking, wouldn't that be cool if we could do a radio show on location at wherever we are? And so then I was thinking epic reality radio
Radio.
tour.
Very
And
good.
Andy's being mean. He's telling to duct tape me. He wants to duct tape me.
Okay, let me
No.
talk to the Reverend.
Go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Esther.
We all have a question. So go ahead, Esther. You can get the first one.
It's really nice to meet you. First of all, how did you find your calling to be leading others to the Lord, and how did that mingle in with other entities that your contactees with?
That's a great question. And
How did it evolve into that? I guess is my question.
yeah, well, I don't know whether it was past life stuff, but I always knew as a child that I wanted to be a minister. But I didn't have the vocabulary for it. I didn't, I would say priest.
Yeah.
But because I was comfortable, and I was I remembered the Bible, and part of that was memorizing stuff. Part of that was because as any child wants to please their parents, and my parents were and are very people of faith. I was raised Baptist. I'm no longer Baptist. I'm affiliated with the Unitarian Universalist Church, which is a very progressive denomination, part of the Protestant Reformation. But I always knew that I wanted to do. I always knew I would be doing something in front of people.
Like you had this feeling that you had
I
like
knew it.
some
I knew it.
messages, but you didn't know the path to get to it.
Yeah, I knew that there was a calling there, if you will. But
Yeah.
again, I'm young. I don't know.
Right.
And then, and I never watched Star Trek or any of that stuff, and I didn't believe in UFOs and I didn't. I remember someone when I was growing up in Baltimore asking me, and they looked like they were shocked when I told them, no, I don't believe in that. But then when I had my first experience, all that kind of went away. And I started reading about, I'm more interested in the spiritual aspect of the phenomenon. I don't, greater minds than I'm not into propulsion systems and back
Right.
engineering. But we need those kind of minds to
Right.
think about that. But I wanted to know, how do you change? How do you live your life after you've looked into the eyes of one of these people? It's like my friends who were in Vietnam, right? And you know, for those who came back, their question was, how are you going to act when you get back to the world? How are you going to act after you've seen and done the things that you had to do in a war? How are you going to act when you get back to civilian life? Well, for me, the question is, after you've had these experiences, how are you going to live?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to interact? My experiences, I felt, were positive, even though they were very scary. Changed my life. Some people didn't have positive experiences. I get that. But for those of us who say, this has changed me for the better, that means you got to walk a different way. That means you talk a different way. That means you're transformed. And so that's what religion is about. Good religion, good
Yes.
theology. It's about transforming ourselves. And you don't have to have these experiences to love or
Right.
to walk through the world. But that's how I came to it. And you know, some people stay away. Some people say the two don't mix. But you know, that's for me to decide because it's my life. And,
Right.
yeah, and you can always go. Don't go by what I say. Go by how I live. Then you'll know what I
Right.
believe.
Right. So my experiences weren't really positive, but if there was a greater good element to that I don't know, it could be positive. You
Well, when I
know?
say positive, Esther, you know, I went through the 20 years of post-traumatic stress. I still have it a little bit. I was frightened. But when I meant positive, I meant that once I got past my fear and I started saying, hey, these people are not hurting you. They look bizarre. They can pop up in your room. They got me on this hands-on healing path. They did. But I had to say, what were they doing to harm me? Not really anything. My life got better. I changed. But yeah, it's still hard for me sometimes to turn the lights out when I go to sleep and that kind of stuff. But mostly it's because that they can just appear in my room. And I've seen certain species. I've seen reptilians. I've seen Arcturians. I've seen grays. I've seen the blonde folks who did a healing on me. But the mere fact, look, after the show tonight, if I popped up in your room and I look human, it would scare the you know what out of you. How did you get in here? You walked in. Well, now put that on steroids when you have someone who looks like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Or you know, you have someone who looks like I got statues here of the people I've seen. Anyway, so I don't mean positive like it was like, oh, let's just sing Kumbaya and we're angels. But I'm saying my life changed. My spirituality was deeper. My psychic ability got stronger. But my capacity, my heart was more open. That's what I mean by positive.
Yeah, that's funny. You say pop in. If somebody popped in my room, I sleep in my
Oh
recliner in
man,
my living room.
you're talking heart attack time.
Well, no, I would be asking them all kinds of questions.
So,
Yeah. You know, people. Yeah, I just didn't think that. I was like, whoa, and I was afraid. I didn't think about having a conversation. I was just trying to comprehend what is happening
Yeah,
to me.
true. Yeah,
My-
we don't know really.
my first experience that I remember consciously that didn't come back later was seeing light beings, and it was in a church, and that happened multiple times, and they were 8 to 9 foot tall, just a different color of light.
Yeah,
And that was during a Billy Mayo crusade. And so I talked to him after it was over, and he was like, because I'm 12, and he says, I've never seen them, but they're guardian angels. Other people have seen them. You're okay. You're not going crazy.
yeah,
Well, then, okay, 15 years later, I'm dealing with small grays.
yeah.
So that's the only two that I've had any kind of, anything with was small grays and the light beings. But now the light beings, I don't feel love and light. I just see them as they're just guardian angels is what they are. And they look like just a different color of light. They're just golden is what they are. And they don't talk and they don't do anything. They're just there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like you said, the psychic stuff starts happening and connections start being made. And then, I end up hearing about a lost book of the Bible. So I get that. And then I want to read about Enoch,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I've got the book right here. I was going to ask you.
Yeah, Enoch it's a powerful book. You see why they took it out of the canon.
Right. I was going to print a picture. You've probably seen it. The Ethiopian Bible is really the full, complete Bible that exists, And
well, you have to remember this. There is no complete Bible. Everything is copies of copies of copies. There is no complete Bible.
Yeah, but what they've whittled it down to now is only what King James wanted people to know.
Oh no! Well, after the Council of Nicaea, no question. The King James Bible is the worst translation you can ever have. I mean, for its poetry and for its prose, it's beautiful, but it makes everybody sound like they're Shakespearean actors, and they're not.
Have you read about the actual birth of Noah?
Yes, I've read some excerpts from it about his hair. Wool.
He glowed. Yeah, when he was born, he glowed like a whole different color. And they should not have left all of that out of the Bible. People have a right to know that.
But it is what it is. There's a whole bunch of things we shouldn't do, but this is life.
But because where I'm from, Baptist town over here, I'm in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
You don't even mention books like that where I'm at.
No, you don't. And I'm in North Carolina. I went to seminary and, I went to one of the most prestigious seminaries in the country. I'm very proud I went to Union Theological Seminary. And so we were trained in some languages, but we were trained to look at the Bible the way you look at a newspaper. Who, what, when, where, how, why. So we're looking at the historicity. We're just looking at it from a more scholarly point of view. There's politics. And there were politics that said these books should stay in and these books should come out. Is it right? No, but it's what we have. And so, but it starts you on your quest. Like you said, lost books of the Bible. I had to look at the book of Enoch. There are other books, obviously, that mention what we could say were sky people, star people.
And even so, Jesus growing up, that whole thing is skipped in the King James Version.
Yeah, the King James Version, as I said, is the worst translation to use.
It really is.
But it's beautiful because of its poetry. But Jesus spoke Aramaic and he spoke Hebrew. And so that's a desert and a sea between Shakespearean English. And I use the RSVP, New Revised Standard Version. If you can get the English translation of the Aramaic, I highly recommend that. If you can get some more translations that are a little more in depth, it really, if you can get the English translation of the Hebrew, the Tanakh, the book of the prophets, and the Torah, it makes a difference in what you're reading.
I feel like a big hurdle, dealing with the research side of it, UFO stuff. One of the biggest hurdles when it comes to mental illness is, was it aliens or was it gods? Like, people think they have to draw a line. And I don't know why, because I was the same way. But after a little while, it sinks in. Well, if God made us, God could also make them. I mean,
Right.
He made all kind of species and all that here. It's not a stretch to think He could make 1,000,000 worlds with 1,000,000 different races and species. But people in the throes of it, brand new, trying to deal with a new reality, they're like, well, ancient aliens. Was it God? Was it aliens? Do we really not have a God? What, and they get all confused.
Yeah.
When they could coexist,
Yeah. Well, to our ancestors, they were gods because of their technology. However, if you read some of the literature, if you read some of the Palladian literature of Billy Meyer, if you read some other people in the field, some star people, they believe in something greater than themselves, but they don't believe in the way we believe, because our God is like a man and up in the sky. And usually the God thinks like we think. They're thinking in terms of energy. They're thinking in terms of intelligence. There's no man up in the sky who's Santa Claus, and if you're naughty, you go to hell, and if you're nice, you go to heaven. They're not looking at the creation like that. They're talking in terms of energy. They're talking in terms of universal law. For instance, what I put out comes back. That's not personal. There's no God punishing me. Even Jesus in the Hebrew part, you reap what you sow. The Buddha talks about thoughts or things, and we're co-creators with our lives. What we think about, we are. They're thinking more in terms of that. That's a much more, to my mind, that's a much more mature way of looking at how the universe works, as opposed to, if something bad happens to me, I'm being punished by God.
I don't think
Something
that
good
either.
happens to me. But a lot of people do, because we were taught that. And so sometimes it's more difficult to unlearn stuff than it is to learn something new. Well, I talk to many, many people, and the first thing they say to me, I would say 80%, can I still hold on to my religion and believe in extraterrestrials? And I'm saying, why not?
That's right.
Why can't you?
That's right.
Now, your church leaders may not want you to do that, but then you may have to walk away, or you may have to find a way to live in both worlds. But of course you can. And the Bible is full of stories, at least to my mind. It's a very important book. There are profound truths in it. There's beauty and wisdom. Same thing in the Dhammapada, the Upanishads, the Quran. But the thing is that I think our ancestors were trying to tell us that they were in contact with these beings who they thought were God. If you, everywhere in the Bible, if you put the word, I don't like the word alien, so if you put the word star person, if you put the word extraterrestrial, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot more sense. And remember, angels, in Hebrew, I think it's melech, which just means messenger. You're an ambassador.
Right.
I don't want to get in trouble with people. I'm not saying angels don't exist, but nowhere in the Bible does it say these angels have wings.
No, it does. It doesn't.
And I think our ancestors put wings on them to try to explain to us that these beings could fly.
Yes.
That's what I think. But I'm not saying angels with wings don't exist. I'm just saying that doing the research, nowhere. And one other thing is this: there are beings, and Esther, I guess this would speak to some of your experiences. There are beings that don't even need ships to get from here to there.
That's true.
These brothers and sisters have ships, but there's some people who they just show up.
Yep, they do.
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on one more thing, and then I'll let somebody else have a turn. When you're speaking with church people, because I know I've heard your interview where you try to keep it separate. You know, you're not a UFO church.
No, that's right.
And that's a separate personal part of your life.
Yeah.
And let's just say I walked up to somebody and I said, I had a dream. I have a message for you. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you've come across this. Or you go to church and you hear somebody say, oh, well, God laid it on my heart to tell you. Like, you know, there's that cosmic Wi-Fi.
So what's your question?
The Akashic record. People get messages for other people. It's just that contactees, we know that that's what it's from, but church people frame it differently and say God laid it on their heart.
Sure. And you got to be bilingual. You know, that's
But it's the very same source.
Yeah, but you know, for me, for Michael, I'm not saying it has to be for everybody.
Yeah.
It's that, you know, you just have to be bilingual. If someone says to me, God laid it on my heart to tell you this, I will listen. I will listen. I may not say it the same way, but I'm not going to let that get in the way.
Right.
But I will listen, and then I will just say thank you or what have you. In my congregation, they know that, you know, they've seen me on Ancient Aliens or these various shows and what have you. And some of the people in my church believe or have had mystical experiences. I just don't preach that from my pulpit. I will throw in a quote from Whitley Strieber. I will, this Sunday, I'm talking about what we can learn from pain. And there's a story I'm going to use from a psychic, a good friend of mine who died, and it's relevant to my talk. So I will throw that in there, but I'm not giving them a theology of, of extraterrestrials or that kind of thing. But there are people like myself in my congregation who are very heavy into metaphysics, you know, and science of mind, religious, that kind of thing. So you got to meet people at their map of the world.
Yeah.
And you know, that's because we're all trying to make sense of life.
Well, I think it's a very brave thing you're doing. I think it's a good time to do it. And I think you're brave for coming out and doing it with the congregation.
I thank you.
When it's such a taboo kind of thing still right now for most of us in this part of the country.
It is changing, though.
You're in North Carolina?
I'm in Asheville.
Asheville. Okay, you're about 45 minutes away.
Yeah, I'm in Asheville. Yeah. I'm closer to Tennessee, though. I'm in the mountains. I'm not like near Charlotte. Well, Charlotte's 2 hours from here.
Yeah.
Raleigh, Durham's 3 hours. Yeah, I mean, you know, like with the government now not being as transparent as one would like, in my opinion, but they are taking it seriously. People don't snicker so much now when you talk about it because the government is talking about it. But when I was talking about this 25 years ago, people thought I was nuts. And I even, you know, I had somebody in my church try to get me fired because they turned on Ancient Aliens and they saw me on there and they said, my minister believes in little green men, and they were they donated a lot of money to the church. And luckily the board said, no, we're not firing him. He's not preaching this from the pulpit. This is maybe he's right. So it took a lot of courage for them to do that. But the time is now
Well,
because
I think it's a
the
really
time
good
is now to talk about it. You
That's
know,
right. Yeah, I think it's really good time, and I'm really proud of you for being brave enough to come out and do that in the face of such criticism.
yeah. But you know, he or she who laughs last laughs best, because now I just say, hey, my government is talking about it, so you know, there's
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 something
there's
there.
there's something there, and you know, we'll see where it goes.
Well, thank you for entertaining my craziness for a little
No
bit.
problem. No problem. That's what this is for.
I
And
wanted
then,
your thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Sure. If you have any questions, just email me or, you know, text me.
and how could I email you? Can you share that?
Oh, I'm Michael J.S. Carter, J as in Jerry, S as in Sam Carter at Gmail. My website is, uh, you can just type in Reverend Michael J.S. Carter. And I don't look at it as often, but if you email me, or go to the website. My books are on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles.
How many books do you have out right now?
I have
You can show them all if you want.
I have 5. The latest one I wrote a year ago. It's called Initiation: The Spiritual Transformation of the Experiencer. It's about people who are experiencers and how they can tell they're experiencers and the transformation that we can go through. I wrote a book on the metaphysics of spiritual healing and affirmative prayer. My first book is Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible. The book after that is called A New World If You Can Take It: God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness. There's a picture of Jesus on the front and spaceships. And the last book is called God Consciousness. It's a meditation manual. It's wisdom from atheists, from Christians, from Buddhists, from Muslims. It's all wisdom teachings, and there's a lesson for every day for 30 days. So it's a month-long handbook of spiritual practices and reflections.
I don't know who's blowing on their microphone, but it ain't me.
It might be me.
That might be thunder.
No, it's breathing because you can. It's
Anyway,
timed. I can hear it timed.
I'm hearing it now right over there.
I really appreciate your time, but I'm not going to hog you up. So,
But now, Charles, did you want to go next and explain your?
Let's introduce Kimberly.
Oh, Kimberly. Yes, Kimberly is here.
Glad to see you, Kimberly. This is the first time I've been on with you.
Hi.
Kimberly.
Hi, Kimberly. Happy Friday.
Oh, is her mic working?
hello, Kimberly.
Everybody just got to get okay. Michael, this is what I was watching another interview, and I'm not even sure who you had the interview with, but you related an experience that you'd had as a young man, that you had drowned or nearly drowned, or was I misremembering something?
No, I didn't have a drowning incident. I've nearly drowned, but it didn't have anything to do with
Hi.
any
Having a
contact.
little bit of Wi-Fi issues here. I had to change rooms.
Okay.
Okay.
No, because I thought.
How's everybody?
Can you tell me just a little bit about that? That you might have related to that incident?
Wow. Many years ago, I let this guy. I was in Puerto Rico with my girlfriend at the time.
So, okay, what do y'all?
I'm sorry.
Okay, you're asking what I think about that.
Somebody's lagging.
No, I was still.
I only heard the end of that. I only heard the end of what he was saying about his book.
Sorry about that.
So, am I the only one with the sound not working very good?
I think Kimberly, you might be. Do you have YouTube up already on another window? You have YouTube up on another window.
Let me check.
Okay. And
Oh, sorry about that.
please go ahead. Go ahead, Michael. We'll deal with
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I don't know if this is related. No, I let a friend of mine talk me into surfing.
that. Okay.
And I'd never surfed before, and he was a surfer, and we went really far out. And I caught a wave, and it
Okay, I can hear y'all now. Y'all can
went
hear me
over
now?
me. And
Yeah.
I was like doing somersaults under the water. And I couldn't find which
Yeah, I
which
shut
way was
everything
up.
down.
And I survived it. Obviously, I lost my surfboard. They made me pay for it. But I was saying that I could have hit my head on a rock while I was on. I just felt myself tumbling, but it was almost as if someone was there to make sure that didn't happen.
Okay.
But that's the only thing I remember that had anything about drowning.
Now I've got to look for who had the experience just like mine.
Yeah.
I have all these details that I remembered speaking with someone, and I connected it to you. But I mean, just since I've already started, I had a drowning incident where I popped out of my body, had an out of body experience.
Wow.
And whoever this was describing how that felt.
Okay.
Okay. And that was something I really wanted to clarify, because I've heard of this experience with maybe 3 or 4 other people, and every one of them rang true in some fashion to what that felt like. What it felt like not to be in this body anymore.
Yeah.
To the clarity and the peacefulness and it just felt like you were so much bigger. Okay.
Yes.
That you couldn't, there's no way you could fit back into this bony case.
Yes. Yeah.
And the thing is, I put this aside, wrapped it up tight in a box, and stuffed it in the back of my head from the time I was 11 until I was probably 50.
Wow.
Because I didn't know how to share it.
Yeah.
You don't understand it. I couldn't say anything about it at the time.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I was busy doing all the other things, live just the normal living things and raising my kids and all that fun stuff,
Yeah.
And I finally said, I guess I should take that out of the box and look at it again.
And dust it off.
And you learn sometimes when you do that, when you're ready for the lesson, okay, you can take that glimpse of the other reality out of the box, and you see so many more facets on that diamond than you would have when you were 11.
Yes.
You didn't have the experiences. You didn't have the, sometimes you feel like that 40 years was wasted, but it wasn't. It was the experience that you needed to appreciate that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my story in a shortened form. Now I've got to go back and watch several dozen interviews to see if I can find out who that person was.
Either Joey or Craig, either Joey or Three Beards, right?
I don't know. A lot of I've got my work cut out for me.
There's a wonderful quote from Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher that I love. I'm sure you've heard it. It says, he says, life is lived forward, but it can only be understood backwards.
That's true. That is so true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, our vision is much clearer. 2020,
That's
right?
good.
Looking
That's
back.
true.
2020
It
behind.
can only be understood backwards.
Well, now I've got to try to figure out why my guardian or my guide brought me to you.
Oh, there you go.
With it,
There you
why the guide had me bring this experience to you. You know,
I don't know.
I don't know. But we'll find out someday.
But
Oh yeah,
It might hit him like 3 years from now. You don't know.
that's right. That's right.
You don't know.
And I'm accepting of that now. For so many years, I was not accepting of that. I said, "Oh, I've got to know why I'm done. I've got to know why this happened. I've got to know why that happened.
It's just
I've
a
got
part
to
of
know. It's got to make sense to me.
it's a part of the journey.
Me, it's just
Well, I'll give you another Kierkegaard quote. Life is not a problem to be solved. It's a mystery to be lived.
oh yeah.
And
Very much.
and well, you bringing it to me, I mean, I have heard people who've had NDEs
Mhm.
and OBEs say that well, you know, when they've come back, just that this sense of, and even after some contacts, you know, there's a sense of peace. There's a sense of I'm more than just this shell.
yes.
And that when I leave, when I get out of here, I'm much more and that's what meditation does. That's what is it, ayahuasca? It takes you to the reality of what you really are, or what you can be, and then we have to come back in these little bodies until it's time to leave. But it's like once you know, what's the old saying? You can't keep them down on the farm once they've seen Paris. Well, once you've had these experiences, and we talked at the top of the show, you can't go back to where you were. Oliver Wendell Holmes says that once the mind is stretched, it cannot go back to its original dimensions. Once you've had an OBE, once you've had an NDE, once you've maybe seen non-human intelligences, once you've had this transcendent experience, it changes you.
Yes.
And you can't go back.
A sailor saying
Before.
you can take the sailor out of the ocean, but not the ocean out of the sailor.
Yeah.
And also consider this. He may not have an answer for you, Charles, but maybe he needed to hear that from somebody else for himself.
Well, you know, sometimes the questions are more important, but I think than the answers. But I think it wasn't even a mystery. It was just that to be validated.
Could be.
You know, that people have said people resonate with that because other people have had it. And then you go, hey, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. This person's had the same, you know, it's nothing like being validated.
Interesting.
Yeah, validation is a big deal.
Go ahead, Esther.
I just said validation is a big deal in this field.
Yeah. One of the things that you kind of said again that I referred to is each one of these different experiences, whether it's ET contact or an OBE or an NDE or meeting an angel or a spirit, each one of these, I look at these as each one is a different facet of an experience that we have. You know, you look at different, each different phase looks different, okay? But they're all the same. They're all a part of the same gem.
But whatever happened to you in your life could mean something completely different.
Right. It's the
in
same
my life.
Yes. Yes.
Even if it's the exact same experience.
It's a related experience because it's each features a facet of the whole thing.
Oh, and also you experience it differently.
Yes.
You know, that's
Yes.
a big part of it too.
Be,
you'll experience it differently because it's your own unique perspective. And but that doesn't invalidate it. It just means that, you know, you're experiencing it differently. And this is what quantum physics is telling us anyway. Remember the old science, the Newtonian kind of, you know, Cartesian model says, you know, show me and I'll believe. But now we know with quantum physics, it doesn't work that way. Now, if you believe, I'll show you. That's what the universe says. Believe and I'll show you. But those are two very different ways of walking through life. Einstein says that the most important question you can ask yourself is the universe a friendly place? Because the way you answer that question will reflect how you live your life, what experiences you have. So if you think that the universe is basically friendly, that it is aligned with you, then your experiences will reflect that.
And
But if
you
you
come,
think it's nothing but chaos, if you think that life is a you-know-what and then you die, well, that's what it's going to show you. But it's like saying, if you believe you can do something, or you believe you can't do something, you're right with both, because it's what you perceive. And that's what your experience will be.
and then like you could have something on your mind for a few days trying to make a decision, and then the answer just comes.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Like you just have
Oh,
guidance?
yeah. I think, yeah. That's why you meditate. Because when you calm yourself, it's like metaphysics. If you want to have abundance and prosperity, you don't focus on lack, you focus on what you want. If I want money, I can't be focusing on being broke, because then I'm not open to. So once you calm your mind, then Einstein talks about that. He says it much more eloquently than I do, but he says when he's busy and frantic, he can't solve his problems. But once he's calm, the answers come.
But you'll hear a keyword
Can I say
or something, and it'll take you back to what you were wondering about, and there'll be your answer.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Kimberly.
I think
So
Kimberly
can I
was going to say
interject?
something.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Kimberly. I can
Yeah, I
hear you.
agree. I had a couple things to say. I agree about being very focused, where you have to weed out distractions. I've been doing that really strong for 12 months. Stuff from the kids, music, people, Facebook, bills or phone calls, emails. I'm not on Instagram much at all. I haven't been on there much in 3 months. I can't handle with so much to do. But I wish I could have time to say a lot of stuff y'all were saying. I finally got this Wi-Fi to change rooms 3 times. In my parents' house, there's 4 rooms here. I was walking around the laptop. Everybody's staring at me. It's like 6 people in the house tonight here. Being very focused. I'm very focused in this season where I've actually peed off. I hate to say the piss word. Pissed off a lot of people, including, people that know me personally. I'm like, look, I'm so sorry, because I'm playing catch up from a lot of income I didn't get for maybe 7 years. It's not just because my kids were babies or they're now 6 and 9. It's because of the hell that I just walked out of, and I won't get onto my story and get y'all distracted from this topic. And calmness, I have to say something about that, because I used to have very high panic attacks. I'm kind of starting to share my story more. Not much here, but I mean, on my own page. I know exactly what you mean about restless calmness. There's Bible principles in place that I could go on for 2 hours about. Be still and know that I'm God. He wants us to get still, because what you said about all the distractions and the chaos, I call it chaos and confusion, and that's not how God operates. So how are we supposed to be able to focus? Like you just said something about abundance on prosperity. Joyce Myers is big on that. I've spent a lot of time in the last 4 years working on myself, my mind, getting calm, drinking green tea. That could be that could be a 2-series podcast. I personally want to start a podcast of my own and go over some of this stuff in detail to help people who have severe anxiety, because that was one of them.
Yeah.
And I just kind of started coming out this year about what happened to me the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And then as far as angels, I've probably met 3 in my life, and one was this year, about 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Yeah. It's a calm mind is a healthy mind, and all spiritual paths, all the religions talk about the importance of contemplation and reflection and meditation. Any genuine spiritual path, that you make the time to be still. But again, you focus on what you want. And most of us focus on what we don't
Oh, I
want.
like
And it's
that. That's
hard.
good.
It's hard.
That's
I
good.
mean, I was raised in a family that I was taught that there was never enough. And I was also, taught that. So I even now at 65, I find myself having to talk myself out of that. Having to say, okay, calm down. All your needs are met. They will continue to be met. Or, don't just
And
walk it
talking
back a
through
little bit.
yourself is not a crazy thing. I want to interject
No,
and say some people
no.
think, oh, it's crazy you talk to yourself. It's a
No.
good, the healthy thing.
No, but it's
Yeah.
you gotta and religion, a lot of religion taught me stuff I had to unlearn. I was raised Baptist and I was taught I didn't deserve good. I was taught all these things that unless this man, he died for me, other than that, I was a worm. I was nothing. And I had to unlearn that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether you want to say God doesn't make junk or you want to use God language or whatever, but it took me almost 50 years to get it that any good that comes to
Well.
me, I deserve that.
Yes.
Mhm.
If you want to put it in Christian language, it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.
Yes.
However you want to put it. The Buddhists talk about it in a different way. But I deserve the good that comes my way, whether it's a relationship, whether it's money, whether it's health. I deserve that because you can't have anything if you think you don't deserve it.
Ah,
You will not keep it.
Oh, that's good.
You will not keep it. And I remember, when I was dating and I got divorced and then took me 3 years. I didn't date. I just had to heal. And I met people and it was fun, but I could meet the people who I knew were going to break. We were going to break up because and not blaming, but they didn't think they deserved a good relationship. And so consciously or unconsciously, they would do stuff to sabotage it. Didn't make them bad people, but if you don't think you deserve a good man, if you don't think you deserve a good woman or whatever your deal is, you will meet one and you will destroy it. You will find a way because you don't think you deserve the good. But I'm 65. I just turned 65 last Saturday.
yeah. Happy birthday, by
If
the
I
way.
got 30 years, who knows? I could be dead in a week. But I know now that the good, I say thank you, gratitude. I keep an attitude of gratitude.
Every day, every
With
day.
any good that comes in my life, I deserve that. Why not me?
Yeah,
Why not me?
I like that. Good point. All right, now I got a question for you.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, now we got to get into some learning here. We were talking with Esther a little bit before the show, and the question I have is the Apostle Paul. Remember the conversion of Saul? He was on the road to Damascus.
Yep.
And he had a bright light, and he couldn't see. The scripture says for 3 days he couldn't see at all.
Right.
Okay. Now, I don't think he ever regained his sight 100%. I think it came back like maybe 60% or so. And I say that because at the end of one of his books, I can't remember what book it was that he was writing, but at the end he says, I write this with my own hand. Remember that? The end line of that one book. I don't remember if it was Romans
Was
or
it Corinthians?
no.
What was it?
One of the other epistles, but I can't remember which one. But it says at the end in the King James Version, it says, I write this with my own hand. So now, from your studying scriptures, they all had scribes. They all had people that wrote, because not everyone could read and write. Okay? And so a lot of times they had scribes that would write down what they would say. So the Holy Spirit would give the person the word, and then they would say it, and then the scribe would write it, or the secretary would write it, whatever you want to call it. It says scribe in the Old Testament. But now, in that one book, though, at the end, he says, I write this with my own hand. Now, that means that the other epistles that he had written, he couldn't see very well to even write those books. That's what I'm getting at. So when he had that conversion experience on the road to Damascus, there's a couple of questions. One, who was it? Now, in the storyline, it says, I am Jesus. Why do you persecute me? Right? That's what the story says. Okay. If you want to believe that, that's fine. If you don't want to believe that, that's fine. I'm not trying to argue with anybody. What I'm saying is, you know, what could cause that amount of eye burn? I know welding flash, from working with metal, you can get blinded in a second. I took welding when I was a little younger, and I didn't like the hot metal personally. But anyway, I wasn't too worried about the eyes or anything like that. You always wore a mask, but in case you didn't have the shield on and you ended up getting the eye burn, it would hurt real quick and real fast and then be permanent. Okay. Now, in this flash of light, a lot of times you're looking at probably a UFO encounter, okay, from an alien craft of some sort. But now the voice said it was Jesus Christ, though. So going from a religious point of view, we accept that it's Jesus Christ is talking to Saul, and then converts him, and then remember now he was going to persecute Christians, okay. And if I remember right, he was from the tribe of Benjamin. He was a Benjamite, correct? From the 13th
Right.
tribe.
He was also a Roman citizen.
Yeah. So he kind of had a Roman upbringing. He wasn't really a Jewish upbringing. You know what I mean? So then when Jesus came along and tried to take over the whole deal as the king, of course, then he was crucified eventually. But I'm saying this was after he was crucified and Jesus was already gone. But then he came back in a flash of light, message to Saul, converted him. He became Paul, and then he wrote all these books. He did a 180-degree turn.
So you're saying he said he was Jesus, but you're saying he was aliens saying they were Jesus?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I'm trying to figure this out. Because if Jesus was only he came back first, when he came to earth one time to save us, and then he resurrected and ascended into heaven, and it said when Jesus returns, then of course everything's going to be
he was for Pentecost too.
So what was that point if that was Jesus talking to Saul, then Jesus already returned. So now we got a problem.
Boy, you covered a lot of ground. You lost me.
I know.
He's talking about he was blinded on the road of Damascus.
No. He went. I got all that, but you were saying that maybe he was blind, and Charles wrote Galatians 6:11 when Paul is talking about see what large letters I use. That doesn't necessarily mean he was blind. That just he may be just saying I don't have a scribe writing this. I'm writing it myself. I mean, that's just speculation. Okay. So we don't know. So that's one thing, because you had about 5 or 6 things there. The second thing is that if you subscribe to the fact that Jesus was a hybrid, then we can already say that, yes, Jesus was either part extraterrestrial or he had a lot of good friends who were. Okay. So I think that covers another part. Paul was possibly a contactee. He says here in 2 Corinthians 12, he says, I must boast, but there's nothing to be gained by it, but I'll just go on to visions and revelations of the Lord. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. Whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know. Only God knows. And I know that this man was caught up in the paradise body, and in paradise, whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And he heard things that cannot be told, which man may not utter. I feel that he's talking about himself.
Interesting.
That he was caught up in the heaven, which could have been another dimension, or, back then a lot of folks believed in a 3-tiered universe.
Yeah.
So Paul does sound like a contactee or an experiencer.
I like that. Yeah.
If Jesus, which I believe was a hybrid,
was he IVF, you think?
Then that would settle that question, at least for me. Was Jesus part extraterrestrial. But for me, if your mother's human and your daddy isn't, then that means you're not fully human. When Jesus says, when he talks about the Father, he means that. Joseph is his earthly father, his stepfather, if you will. But, when he's talking about his father, that is his father.
So he never was fully human either way.
So it makes more sense, the miracles. It makes more sense. But we've made a rock star out of Jesus instead of trying to live his teachings.
Yeah.
See, if I make you God, then I don't have to follow those. I don't have to live those.
One of the principles that Jesus gave us time and time again is nothing that I do is beyond you.
Yes.
Only your lack of faith.
That's right.
Sets you down there in the mud. You could be.
Yeah.
You could be.
But
Whatever.
that's not preached, Charles, because we make Jesus the rock star. But he says greater things than I do, you can do. Yep. But if you say that, just like saying it back then, people say, "Who the hell do you think you are?" That's blasphemous. What do you say? See, and if you went in church Sunday and said that, they'd run you out. But it's okay for Jesus to say it. But it's not good for you. So either you believe what he says or you don't.
Right.
But that's the crux of religion.
Yeah.
Now the other question.
If Jesus came back, if Buddha came back, if Muhammad came back, I feel they would say, this is not what I had in mind at all.
You're probably right.
I agree with that. Yeah. And then the other
a hot mess.
Yeah, and then the other question I had with that whole Paul conversion, he was a commander of, I don't know how many people was going with them to collect Christians. Remember, he's going to get the Christians to arrest them and to order to kill them, either one, right? And so he had a bunch of men with him, right? He had a company of men with him, riding with him. How many men were with him, and what happened to them when he had that experience? It's not said, I don't think. I don't think that's even talked about.
No, it's not. But is that really relevant? I mean, who cares?
If they were,
I would like to ask some of them.
Paul's the star of his show.
I'd like to ask the men what happened. What did you see? What did you find out? Well, like I said, if somebody popped into my room, I'd be asking questions. I'd be asking all kinds of questions.
I think you think you would. I think you think you would. But you may not.
I might not.
No.
I'll have to let you know
if a reptilian being walked in your room, you're not going to say, "Oh, hold on a minute. Let me ask you something before you wait." I guarantee you're not going to do that. You wouldn't do it if a Gray did. It's easy to say until it happens to you.
Right.
And
exactly.
Growing up Baptist, they teach you all these things of why you can't ask questions. Like, it's blasphemous for me to say, "Okay, Mary, how are you 13 and you woke up pregnant with the Son of God?" Why don't they preach that in church? She was 13. He was born when she was 14. You have a 14-year-old daughter and she comes home pregnant. Is that not IVF?
Yeah.
Is it not? Because they don't preach that.
But Esther, I think
I grew up Baptist.
Why. I think your questions make sense, but you know why.
But it's blasphemous for me to ask them.
Yes.
They put up all these guards that you cannot get around to try to find answers.
So why do you think they do that?
I don't know, but what it makes you do is
stop. Hold on. Let's be honest. You do know. If you don't know, make pretend you know. If you did know, what would the answer be? Don't you think it's quite clear that there are issues of power and issues of what we want you to know and what we don't want you to know? You don't have to be an astronaut to figure that out. That it's right there. They're saying we don't want you to know certain things because we want to maintain power. So you know that. You're an intelligent person. Now, if you're angry about that, which I understand, that's one thing. But you know why.
So
You
we're
know.
going to send all these people to seminary and teach them how to go around all these questions that don't, that's not legit.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but let's be honest. Yeah, you know why? Because they want people to stay in darkness, and they want their powers that be that don't want women to have power, and the usual stuff, the usual suspects.
Well, it works opposite, and I'll tell you why. Then you have to start the search yourself.
No, you
start to
don't,
have
because
to
there are a lot of
read.
people. There are a lot. Well, you're right. I agree with you, but there are many people who are happy with people telling them what to think and what to do because they don't have to take the
Y'all got some good
responsibility.
preaching going on. I
There's
grew
some
up
people who
Baptist.
say, I don't want to know. I want you to tell me what to do. So I agree with you that if your spirit is restless, you're going to go search and do shows like this, and you're going to do. But most people don't do that. Doesn't make them bad people.
They want the simple. They want a simple.
Are followers. Thank you, Charles.
Yes.
Most people don't want that. And our job, if I could be so bold, is to learn to accept that. Because behind all this, you got to give up having to be right.
Okay.
You got to
that's
give that
some
up.
good stuff y'all were saying.
You got to give that up because you'll always be disappointed because people won't be doing it the way you think they should be doing it, which is just what they're saying about you.
And I know, and it's insane. They get up and they go to church and they don't know their 13-year-old daughter is implanted in vitro with Jesus.
Okay. Yeah, right. You're right. But
and I'm going to go to hell because I thought it,
Well, that's not true, but that's what you were raised with.
Yeah.
But you got to, in order to have your inner peace, you got to give up being right.
Okay.
Something I
that should be easy because I'm wrong often.
Yeah, you just got to give up being right. It's hard, but you got to, otherwise you'll always be unhappy.
Yeah, you're right.
Can't you see it? Don't you see it? Don't you see that 13 years old, she's in vitro? Why can't you see that? I see it. Everybody. And that's not it. That's not peace.
Yes. Yep.
Peace is, this is what I think. And if they buy it, they buy it. And if they don't, they don't.
Not around here. Not around here. Get hung around here.
Nah, then you just keep it to yourself, and
that's right. Yeah. You don't.
You know what you know. You know what you know, and
discernment. Maybe in another lifetime you didn't get that, so you got your tongue cut out or your head cut off, and here you are back now trying to learn that. I mean, you could go from lifetime to lifetime with this stuff. But you don't have to. Even Jesus said, "Don't cast pearls before swine, because they'll eat it and then come after you." So if people aren't there, shake the dust off your feet and move on.
Yep.
But
you're right. You're right.
We have an opportunity now with this kind of platform and this kind of relationships that we can form with each other to do that. Okay. We don't have to look at things black and white. Okay. Oh, it's my way or the highway. We're introducing. It's like everybody's been watching color TV. Everybody's been watching black and white movies, and we're introducing colors.
Yeah.
That everybody gets their own color. Everybody gets their own view of things, and it's all the same, but it's all different. And people are going to have a hard time absorbing that for a while. But I think that's a part of what our mission, this wonderful opportunity to share.
Well, the mission is to learn acceptance.
Yes.
That's the mission. And then because when you can accept people, you can learn to love. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about let's all sing Kumbaya, but you can let people be where they are. When I was younger, there was a guy named Frank Barrow. Frank is probably crossed over by now. And he was an old soul. And he used to say, Michael, you got to learn to enjoy your life as well. But at that time, I thought I wanted to be Dr. King. You know, I wanted to change the whole world. To make a long story, and I said, he doesn't get it. Now I'm Frank. And so it wasn't like I gave in or I caved in. I learned to accept people where they are. I don't know what the universe has in store
good.
for you.
That's very good.
And maybe there was a time when I didn't believe in UFOs. There was a time when I believed everything the Bible said, when there was so much evidence that that wasn't true. Okay, so I was like that other person. Now I got a little bit of knowledge, and now everybody's got to believe what I believe. No. So I learned that maybe this lifetime, maybe next year, whatever, but if you don't see it the way I see it, that's okay. Because I got peace. And peace
That's
means
good.
I don't have to, it's like 12 steps. I stay in my lane. I don't have to make you believe what I believe.
No,
Right?
just share the message.
Wayne
Yeah.
Dwyer said it, right? If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change.
Yeah.
And so if people don't want to say that Jesus was a hybrid, if they don't want to say that Mary was artificial, what do I care? I'm just trying to love my family and spread a little love or whatever, because otherwise you wind up, A, not having inner peace, but B, you're doing the same thing that they want you, that they're doing to you. You're getting upset because they're not getting it. Maybe they have a different path to walk. I don't know, but I don't judge it. I for the last 15 years of my life, 20 years, and I worked at it, I have inner peace. And I'm not going to ever let it go. I can't give it up. It's good. But what I gave up having
Me
to be
too.
right,
I work real hard.
and I gave up having, I don't worry about what somebody else does. I stay in my lane because I have a hard enough time living my life. Now I'm supposed to tell you how to live yours? It's just a suggestion.
No, I think you got it right. I think we need to just share our message, and if someone gets it, then great. You know, we can only share with people that want to accept it. And there's always going to be somebody that's going to argue with whatever we say. We're not going to be able to convince everyone.
I just wonder what the preacher would say if I ever said that.
He probably wouldn't like you, I would guess. But you know, I just find it interesting that her cousin Elizabeth was also pregnant with John, right?
That's right.
And they're cousins, and it's like, wait a minute, who got these girls? You know, like, wait a minute.
And then she was in her 60s, right? And she was supposed to be barren.
And Sarah, you know, when the angel visited her, and
she was barren.
Samson's mother doesn't even get a name. Pardon me. I mean, it must have been great being a messenger back then, because you just go around getting women pregnant. It's been a great job. Yeah.
And then the cousin John baptized Jesus.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Remember, 6 months into the pregnancy, and Jesus jumped in the womb, right? And Jesus and then kind of like Jesus and John knew each other already before they were born, right? So
that's always been the great controversy, right? At the Council of Nicaea, there was some, you know, one of the big things was, is Jesus God? And then there was one group, which is the side that won, but there was the other group, the Arians, who said Jesus is more than human, but he's not God. So that's always been, so, you know, if to you, Jesus may be God, to someone else may not be. But that was the big controversy at the Council of Nicaea in 329 CE.
All right, that's interesting. So now the other thing is, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, so okay, if we're supposed to be modeled after Christ or after the Christ who we call as Christ is physical, the God person Christ, okay, and then we're supposed to have our death, and then we're supposed to go on to live somewhere. If we're good, then we go to be with God in heaven. If we're bad, then we go to be in hell. Okay. Now I don't necessarily prescribe to that whole deal in that situation, because there's too many situations where recently I have discovered that that's not necessarily the way it is. I don't know how I'm figuring that out. I don't know who I have in my house here. I have visitors in my house that I see all the time. Okay, that sounds like I'm crazy. Now, if I tell church people this, then they're like, "Oh, you're just seeing demons." Automatically.
Oh, yeah.
I'm seeing
It's
demons.
always some shit like that.
Yeah. And, of course, one of them would come back and say, well, if they're dead, then they went to heaven, or they're waiting for judgment day or whatever. And it's like, I don't think it's that way. I don't really think it's that way.
No,
I think
don't
we
think
got
so.
that wrong. I think we got that wrong perception of what we're reading there.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. I mean, listen, I look at it like this. Christ is the consciousness. I mean, Jesus's last name wasn't Christ, and he wasn't the son of Mr. and Mrs. Christ. Okay,
Man,
Christ is the consciousness. I mean, it's the Christos. It just means the anointed one. That's what it means. It's a way of being in the world. In the other side of the world, they call it the Buddha consciousness. It's not so much that's your last name. It's the way you look at the world. Okay? Jesus is Yeshua ben Yosef, Yeshua son of Joseph. Christ is the consciousness, the way you look at the world. You walk through the world with this consciousness of love, of compassion, of discernment. So that's just another way to live. It makes more sense to me. I mean, you could call it Christ consciousness. See, we get so hung up in names, and we could be Buddha consciousness. Who cares? You can call it God, the Force, the Prime Mover, the universe, the multiverse. It doesn't matter what you call it. What matters is, do you tap into it? Do you take the time to tap into it?
I like
when
that.
people say God to me, I have to say, what God are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to be funny, but your idea of God may be judgmental, homophobic, xenophobic, racist. That's not the God that I'm into. Or the God you may be into may be Santa Claus. If you're naughty, I'm going to barbecue you for eternity. But if you're nice, you do what I say, then I'll love you. See, I can't do that. I'm sorry, Kimberly. You wanted to say something else about Baptist. Can you hear me, Kimberly?
Yeah, but I'll keep it short. Yeah. Can you hear me? I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
I grew up Baptist,
like
and
Verizon.
specifically Independent Baptist, because there's different branches.
Yeah, I was raised Baptist.
Can you hear me? In and out?
Yeah. It's like Verizon.
Okay, well, Baptists like to be right. They don't like being wrong. I'm going to tell you straight up.
Well, it's not just Baptist.
And if you differ with them, you better have a Bible verse. I went to Bible college, Christian school, church all my life. You name it. I've heard it all. I'm not Baptist now. I'm a follower of Jesus. They can go somewhere, some of them, because some of them have highly offended me during the hardships and hell I went through. Anyway, someone just said it's my way or the highway. I was married to a man like that for 10 years. No, anyway, he went to Bible school too. Baptist tendency is to be right, and it's my way or the highway. Their tendency is to be dogmatic. And then I'm going to get to the Bible stuff, which could be another session here. Pretty much all of them believe in King James Version, which is what I use personally. They will debate about that for hours. I mean, they may take a break for coffee and come back. Okay, I have personally been to like preachers' things, events, and I'm at the point where now it's like, who cares? The people are dying and going to hell. There's drug addicts in Nashville. I met some last week. I'm out there meeting people in Atlanta, Georgia. There's people on drugs and serious issues, and we got Christians debating over Bible. So I wanted to throw that out there, specifically the Baptists, though. Okay, that's kind of my spiel on what I was going to say.
Yeah. No, I hear
They will
you.
debate topics and doctrine.
I mean, it's not just the Baptists, though. I want to be clear because I remember the Dalai Lama said something. He said that when you leave a religion, just not to bash it too much, because that religion still works for other people. So you never want to bash the bridge that brought you over. I'm with you, and I hear your frustration. That's why I left the Baptist. Okay. But it still does work for other people, and it's not, everybody wants to be right. Sometimes you and I want to be right, but that, and that's the downside of religion. I got to be right, but if I got to be right, that means somebody's got to be wrong. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. So I hear you, and I'm glad you found a path that suits you more. Because the bottom line is this, and by their fruits you'll know them. People can tell you what they believe. Yes. I know people who don't believe in a God, and they treat me like I am a prince. And I know people who claim to be Christians or what Muslim, good, devout people, and they treat me like sometimes I'm something on the bottom of their shoe. The point is this: I know what you believe by how you act. Pure and simple. I know what you believe by how you treat me, by how you treat the animal kingdom, by how you treat the earth. So, if someone says I'm a Baptist, I'm this, I'm that, I go, okay, yeah, good. But I'll know what you believe by how you treat people. Thank you. It's just the easiest way to figure it out.
I knew a preacher's wife, Southern Baptist Church in North Carolina, and I was going there for a little bit just because I wanted something to go to, a church to go to. And anyway, the preacher's wife says to me, she's sitting there smoking a cigarette, taking a smoke break, and I said, you shouldn't be smoking, A woman, first of all, smoking shouldn't be happening. Wow. No offense, Esther. But anyway, right. Just saying, I said you shouldn't let any unclean thing in your temple of the Holy Spirit, right? But the funny thing was, before I said that, she said, "I'm not going to quit smoking until God tells me to," and I said, "It's right here." You preach on it all the time. It's right there. Oh my gosh! And so I couldn't go back to that church. I couldn't go back there after I talked to her like that, But again, you can't really tell people that they're doing the wrong thing. Like an alcoholic, you're not going to tell them, "Hey, you're an alcoholic. You got to stop drinking." They're not going to stop drinking. Plain and simple. They're only going to stop drinking if they have the opportunity to, when they can wake up and say, "Oh, I might be in serious trouble here with the, health issue or whatever, So that's the only time anyone's going to stop using any kind of drug or drinking, smoking, whatever. It's only going to be when they are ready to quit, if they have that opportunity. But so, just like in the religion, I don't think we should tell anyone, oh, you can't do it that way, or you got to do it this way, or you got to speak in tongues. Assemblies of God is what I'm kind of part of,
Right.
and if you're not speaking in tongues and you're not saved, it's like bull crap. I'm saved. I know I'm saved. I had the conversion experience personally. I didn't have the flash of light or nothing, but I had the Holy Spirit connect with me and everything like that. And I had a healing. I was at a healing service, and I helped someone get healed of cancer. They had 6 months to live. They had the test and everything like that. They said he had 6 months to live. So he came up, and I was one of the ones who put my hands on him. I could feel the heat from the Holy Spirit working through me, and the person was healed from his cancer. He lived another 5 or 10 years, whatever it was that he lived, but he didn't have cancer anymore. So my first gift, my initial gift, and my Holy Spirit filling was the healing gift. It wasn't the speaking in tongues. Now I did speak in tongues later. I don't know why, but I did. I don't know what the message was about or why I was speaking in tongues. It's supposed to know those things when you're doing it. So I'm not really sure what that was all about. I didn't really use that technique, speaking in tongues, as they show all the time in some of the, Pentecostal churches and things like that. Assemblies of God churches and things. You guys are doing that wrong, technically, according to how the Bible teaches the thing about tongues. Okay? In reality, there's only supposed to be 3 messages in tongues, and there's supposed to be an interpretation of each message that's said in tongues, and it has to be for somebody that is there at the service. Okay? That's what it says in the book of Acts, anyway. But maybe I got that wrong. I don't know. But anyway, so I didn't really consider tongues to be a really solid part of being filled with the Holy Spirit, because you can have other gifts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I didn't know.
Reverend Carter, you're a reverend at a Universalist,
A Unitarian
Universalist. So even though I was raised Baptist, when I go, it's Pentecostal. And what is Universalist? What's the difference in what?
The Universalists say that God is love, and so love doesn't barbecue you and send you to hell. Unitarians say that God is one, so we don't believe in a Trinity. We believe in oneness. So those are the basic differences. We got together in 1961. We had people were killed for saying what I just said and that kind of thing. One guy, Michael Servetus, was a Spaniard. John Calvin had him burned at the stake for saying that, God is one, and that also that there may be life on other planets. And he wrote a book about the Trinity, and John Calvin had him killed. But that's basically it. The Universalists say God is love, and that means everybody's saved. Hitler, Pol Pot, you, me, everybody. And Unitarians say God is one, that there is no Trinity.
Is there a book? What do y'all study? What do you read? What do you
we use the Bible. We can preach of something that we saw in the New York Times. We can use sometimes we'll talk about Buddha. This Sunday I'm going to be talking about how pain can help us grow. So we have a free.
Oh wow!
We could talk about anything we want. I could talk about, we have Christmas Eve services. We talk about Jesus. We just have a broader scope of what we can use, because we believe that you can learn from everything and not just a book.
Because God loves people unconditionally.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even if you're a murderer, God still loves you because He loves unconditionally.
That's what we believe.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I like that. Well, any other thoughts? Now everyone's like thinking,
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that there's a kernel of truth in everything that was said tonight. I think sometimes we can let we can't see the forest for the trees, but I have, in my 65 summers on the planet, I have boiled it down to what I have shared with you. And again, these are my opinions. That doesn't mean they have to work for you. That
Right.
I'll know what you believe by how you live. And same thing with me. And I think that a lot of friction would be lessened if we just gave up the need that we have to be right.
yeah,
And by that I mean I just told you what about my denomination. You don't have I will sleep well tonight. I don't have to debate it, and that's the way to inner peace. But let's say I had to say, "Oh, what are you talking about? The Pentecostal thing. What are you talking about? You gotta do this, you gotta do that." That's not helpful. And that's just arguing over theology. And
Exactly.
yeah,
I'm not
and
gonna
I
amen
don't
that.
have to. I'll just know
Yeah.
how you live, and you'll look at how I live, and then you'll know what I believe.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, it gets kind of crazy, and unfortunately, that's what religion. Not all, but mostly people in power in religion, they want to keep that power, and so I got to keep everything this way.
Yeah.
So
My main point was just that any other thing than what they want you to believe is blasphemy. You're wrong for not believing what they teach you, and it's blasphemy. So you're going to hell for it.
right, but that's not true.
Right.
Now, if your calling is to reform, and it is to argue, I want to be clear. I'm not saying don't do that because that may be why you're here. But for me, I don't have time for that. And so, and I went the
Me
things
either.
you're asking about,
It
I
isn't.
went through.
Right.
And so I know why they do it. And they say, okay, it's blasphemy. I go, okay, then it's blasphemy to you. It's not blasphemy to me. And I move on.
hmm
But I don't want to get stuck and bitter because, well, it's not blasphemy. I mean, but if that's where you're coming from, then you have to do what's right. But you also have to say, how is that affecting my life? Am I happy? Because I'm only going to be here for maybe 80, 90 years, maybe not that. Is this worth it? Okay. If you think I'm blasphemous, then I'm sorry you feel that way. But what can I do?
Right.
And you move on.
Yeah. I'm in
But-
the dead center of it too.
But to stay stuck there, it's just not healthy.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not
That's
healthy.
just like we talk about UFOs. Esther is assistant with Jesse Peak, on his project, and they study UFO research about what UFOs do with the electric stuff, like cars and things like that, and
Cool.
so, but what's interesting is who are these aliens? Are they fallen angels? Are they created beings? I believe they're created beings, personally. I don't think that they're all fallen angels. I do think they're created beings. I think that God could have created life. Well, I say God in simplicity, keep it simple. And God created beings all over the universe. We just happen to be here on planet Earth as human beings. But other beings have been created all over the place. I don't think they're fallen angels, though. Not at all. So, and they got some tricks. They got some tricks they can do. I don't know that they're fallen angels, though. Now, what do you think about that?
I think that when we talk about star people, we need to be very intentional because there's so many different races. So which ones are you talking about?
Yeah.
I think at some back in the day, Some of them may have been fallen angels, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because it's always a slant.
Hmm.
All we know that we're not alone. Some people have, such as myself, have had experiences with some of these races, and say, I treasured it. It helped me. Some people will say, I met some people, and they did horrible things to me. Took my sperm, ovum, and that's just as real as well. So we just have to be careful that we're not lumping all of them like we do with human beings.
Yeah.
Irish people, black people, gay people. Who are we talking about here? And we'll find out, but we know we're not alone. That's the bigger picture, and that most of the people, many of the people, not most, are saying, I've had a transformation. I care more about the earth now. I care more about how I interact with people. I see a larger reality. Those are the things you focus on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get into the paralysis of analysis,
Hmm.
and you can miss
Like
it.
that.
You can
Paralysis of analysis.
you can miss it.
That was pretty good.
You
Yeah.
can miss the revolution that's going on. I said at the top of the show, for me, it's not about lights in the sky. It's about the changing of your consciousness so we can help save a planet. So we can start being more equitable and just with people. So we can learn to accept difference and not to be afraid of it. You don't
I
have
like
to
that.
have a UFO experience to do that. You could get it from watching a sunset. You could get it from meditation. You could get it from lovemaking.
Exactly.
It's something that changes your consciousness, and you get this oneness. You finally see that because your hair is that texture and your lips are thinner and you're like that, all that is bullshit, and that we come from the same source, that we are one. But some people reduce it to lights in the sky. Some people say, well, are they demons? You're missing it. But if that's where you
Right.
are, I'm okay with that. If all you get out of it is they're fallen angels or lights in the sky, it's okay. I just happen to think it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
But notice what I'm not saying. I'm not trying to force people to believe what I believe, because some things you can't get to unless you've happened. I brought up my friends who fought in Vietnam. I don't know if you ever been in combat, but you can see movies, you can read about it, but unless someone has fired or shot at you in anger, you don't know. Well, it's the same thing. If you haven't had the experience, it doesn't make you less than a man, but you don't know. And so you just have to go from there. I don't know what it's like to have a baby. I watched my ex give birth to our daughter. I was there. It was beautiful, but I didn't have it. I didn't have the baby.
I like
And
that.
so that's just the way it is.
Well, I sure do enjoy listening to you, and that's why I try to catch you whenever I see you on anyone's podcast. I know you've been on a few. I think you should maybe have a set one that you do yourself. I don't know if you have time for that now.
I know people have said that, and you're like the third person. Probably right now, my plate is full. My plan is to work really, really hard for the next 5 years because I want to retire, which doesn't mean I won't work. It's different working because you want to as opposed to working because you have to. And then I'll have time to do all these lovely things. I enjoy being on this show and all the other shows I do. I enjoy doing Ancient Aliens and doing the conferences. I will tell you this. When I do these things, I'm going to be in Flint, Michigan in September at a conference with some other wonderful speakers, Kathleen Martin, with Betty and Barney Hill. And when I talk about my experiences, people are fascinated.
Oh yeah.
But the last half hour, I usually talk, and then, you got your question at the Q&A. I talk about spirituality, and you can hear a pin drop
Hmm.
because people are trying to find out, how do I live? We
Right.
can, after we do
That's
this
good.
show
That's good.
tomorrow, I gotta
That's
go.
good.
My daughter's upstairs. I gotta deal with my neighbors. People are saying, how do I live in between?
Hmm.
And because we're here to learn to love. We're here to learn to love and to grow our souls. And so, like I said, for an hour and a half, I can talk about the reptilians I saw or my little Arcturian statue. They love it. We talk about the Bible, wonderful. But the last half hour, when I talk about spiritual growth and how you can live
Mm,
a more authentic life, you hear a pin
that's
drop
good.
because it's bigger
Yeah.
than lights in the sky.
That is so true. And it's
Well, that's
hypnotic
good.
almost to listen to it.
It's bigger. And people who have met these beings,
It
they
is
tell you
bigger.
that it's bigger.
Yep.
They tell you that you got a planet here. You're not, you want to treat each other, with some type of genteelness, with some type of compassion. They're telling us that. This is not sexy. This is not a new message. This is the same shit they've been telling us for thousands of years. We've been hearing it from King and maybe Joan of Arc or Rosa Parks or Mother Teresa or Jesus. This is old stuff, and we just can't seem to get it.
There's a
And
Bible principle in Galatians about walking in love. And
it's
I'm praying that
big.
every day that God will help me walk in love.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good. That's good. Well, Michael, I want to thank you for taking the time to
Thank you
be
for
here
having me, brother. Thank you
again
very
today. I hope Charles got his answer, or maybe he'll get it later on.
much. Yeah.
Searching is so much more fun than finding the answers sometimes.
Yeah, I had a water experience too. I was in the Navy for 4 years. I was on a ship for 3.5 years on a USS Denver LPD 9. We carried 1,200 Marines and all their equipment, and a 550-foot ship, 1,200 Marines. Our crew was 500, so you had 2,000 people on a kind of a small ship in a way,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
no room.
All
But
the
anyway,
jarheads.
before I went into the service, though, I tried scuba diving, right? And I had a water experience. I explained this to Charles once. And my water experience was this: was my first time open water dive, and I went down 90 feet. You weren't supposed to go under 60 feet. You weren't
Wow.
supposed to go below 60 because you had to worry about decompressing. Okay,
Oh
if
yeah.
you went below 60 feet, you had to worry about decompressing taking
Right.
time. And well, I went down 90 feet. I don't know how long I was at 90 feet. I was just exploring, having a great time. I could breathe underwater. I didn't know how I was doing that, except, regulators, tank and everything like that. And it's just amazing I could breathe underwater. And I just got so excited about, look, I breathed really fast and I used up all my air.
Oh.
Well, the thing is, though, I ran out of
Oh.
air. I ran out of air when I was 10 feet below the surface.
Oh my God.
And I didn't drown, but the thing is, it was on my mind. Am I going to make it?
Yeah.
My legs were cramping up because I was cold. I had a wetsuit on, but I was in Monterey, so temperature 48 degrees, I guess, for the water. And so your muscles get tight when they're cold, and so I couldn't use my legs to kick my fins to move up. I had to use my hands to actually get up to the surface
Oh,
in
wow.
a certain way. And I got there finally, but it was not an easy trip back to the beach. I got back to the beach. When you're supposed to go back to the beach, you're supposed to have a regulator in your mouth. You're supposed to be breathing air. I didn't have that. I had salt water that I was breathing in. I didn't have any oxygen. So I got a little bit of salt water that day. But yeah, so that was my close experience of really drowning and death. 10 feet
Yeah.
below the surface, no oxygen. And I don't know how I did it except God. I'll say God, just for simplicity.
Whatever works for
And
you, brother.
and
Whatever works
for me, God, that works. God protected
that
me.
works. That works for you.
But when I got up to the surface and I could breathe, man, what a difference.
Yeah, something about air, something about oxygen.
Yeah.
I just
And
want to say, because I guess we're winding down. I mean,
yeah.
I can stay on till midnight, but
Oh, you
if
can stay as long as you want.
if
I
we're
just
winding down, I just want to remind people to go to if they want to just to go to Amazon and just type in my name and my books will come up if they're interested. Your
okay.
your viewers.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Amazon.com, and you can find it.
Or Barnes and Nobles.
All right. Do you have Kindle? Do you have any Kindle audio books or anything?
Yeah, you can get them on Kindle as well.
Okay, good deal. And I think that's pretty good service too. You can spend like what, $5 for a book or something like that.
Some of them are really high. I was looking for a book on religion and UFOs, and it was the Kindle was $44.
Oh wow.
And then you couldn't buy the hard copy. You could rent it for $42. I was like,
Okay.
I don't need the book that bad.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, Kindle. Yeah, I get on an airplane, and I used to carry these tons of books. Now I just got them on a Kindle. I just read.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm
Well,
going to get a book.
Esther, are you in Tennessee?
No, sir. I'm in South Carolina.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by Baptists.
Yes, you are. Same thing here. So, what part are you? In Spartanburg, or what part of?
It's in Boiling Springs, right outside Spartanburg.
So, how far is that from here? About an hour?
From Asheville? Yeah, about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, but I'm going to get your book and see if I can quit trying to be right.
Listen, I hear you. No, because yeah. I mean, we're making light of it. It is funny, but I had the same frustration.
I was married for 22 years, and I swear I've never been right.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. I was married, and I'm it'll be 3 times, but yeah, I'm never right. But you know when you're right. But I'm just saying that from the religious standpoint, and to your point too, interrelationally. But sometimes, when the relationships, sometimes you got to work that out. Look, you're right sometimes, and I'm right sometimes.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about, as far as religiously and spiritually, the way to really get inner peace, or as the Christians say, the peace that passes all understanding. One of the ways to do that is to just not to argue with people. I don't have to be right. If you don't agree with me, it's okay,
Right.
because people can't argue by themselves.
That's right. You're right.
And there are some people in my church, like I'll say something on a Sunday, and they'll say, I want to talk to you about that. And I'll say, I'll talk to you if you have something to discuss. But if you just disagree with something because you think you're right, then we have nothing to talk about, because I don't need to be right. So if you disagree with me, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's even wrong around here to be Pentecostal. You can't even be Pentecostal here.
Uh-oh.
So,
well, you're probably going to have to find your own way. I don't know if there are any. I'm sure there's a UU church in
there is. I looked it up. Yeah.
Yeah, then you may want one Sunday. You may want to go there.
I might visit there.
Yeah, because you'll have freedom of thought, and that means no one's going to say, "Oh, I'll pray for you," or in a snide way, as if you need help. Yeah. People will share ideas, and you have very different ideas, and that's okay. When I go to church on Sunday, they're Buddhists, they're atheists, there's some pagan folk, there's some UU Christians, there are people who don't know and don't care, and we're all there on Sunday. And the one thing that keeps us together is we value the diversity.
it is a big value to have all that diversity because you're not in a box. You're not letting anybody put you in a box.
Right. Or, you know, one Sunday I may talk about Jesus. The next Sunday I may talk about psychology of religion. Tomorrow, last week I spoke at a church. I was off. I talked about love and oneness. This Sunday I'm talking about the lessons of pain. So, you know, and all this stuff is grist for the mill, and it can get you through the week.
Yeah.
No one's going to say, "Oh, well, what do you think that?" No, that's blast. No one says all that.
Well, I appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah.
I had some things that I was really unclear about that I wanted to talk to you about. So
Well,
I
you know how to
appreciate
get
you coming.
you know how to get in touch with me.
Okay.
You got
And
my
I was going to say one thing I noticed about you, Michael. Every time I see you, I could spend all night just listening to what you got to say. I might not understand everything you're saying, but I can listen to you. And what I appreciate is that you're always positive. You're never trying to tear anyone down. You're never trying to correct anyone. You're always trying to keep on the positive side of everyone. And like you said, you're not trying to convince anyone's mind. You're just trying to share that message of positivity with people.
it's simple. First of all, thank you.
Yeah, I
But
see
it's
that.
important. It's important to do that, I think.
Yeah.
But that also tells you about what I believe,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, I
Yeah.
believe in the inherent worth and dignity of you. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to knock you or tell you what, you know, and I'm always so you get a little bit about what I believe. Now I could tell you I go to church every Wednesday night, I'm at Bible study, and I preach on Sunday and blah blah blah. And if I get on here and talk bad about folks or knock them, you know what I believe. I may tell you one thing, but when you listen to me talk, oh, I know. Yeah, that's bullshit, man. You sitting up
No,
here
but you're
talking bad.
you're positive.
You talking bad about people. Talking
No,
about
you
their
don't do
religion.
that. You don't do
No,
that. You're
no, you don't
positive.
want to do that.
You're
That's not
positive. You just
helpful.
you shared a good message. That's what you share,
Yeah, that's not
and
helpful. That's
I
not
thank you
helpful.
for that. So I'll be watching you. I'll be following you out
I'll
whenever
let
you're
you
on a.
know next time I'm on Ancient Aliens or whatever I'm going to
Oh
do.
yeah, I'll
But
be watching you.
but
And
I'll come back on the show.
oh, definitely, you're more than welcome anytime. And
You know,
if
and
you
if you
see us
got a
on,
question, give me a holler.
yeah, there you go. There you go, Esther. So if you have any more questions later,
No, I just appreciate his time. I appreciate him
If you got any
coming.
questions, give them to me. We got 15 minutes.
all right, yeah.
Okay. What has been the most enlightening lesson you've learned from any race or species, including human?
That's a great question. Oh my God.
15 minutes worth.
Well,
Wow.
okay. What I learned from the folks I met, they didn't say it like this.
Mhm.
And what I've learned from humans, and we talked about it at the beginning, Esther, that I need to learn to love myself, and that I do that I do deserve the good that comes in my life, and that I am responsible, not for everything, because things happen in life. I just had a colleague was up in Rhode Island, 70 years young, retired minister. He went to do a wedding, and he had a heart attack and he died. That was yesterday. So things happen. And his wife was on the way up to meet him, and they called her, and oh my God. But that I deserve good in my life, and I'm a good person in my heart,
You are.
and that means something. And so, because when I'm happy with me, I'm going to be happy with you.
Yeah.
When that's the most important thing I've learned, that good comes to me and I deserve it. I'm not a worm. I'm not a miserable sinner. Do I sin? I look at the way the Greeks say sin means missing the mark. Well, that's human. We make, we all make mistakes. I watched my daughter being born, and you're not going to tell me that she had evil in her. I just don't believe that. But my point being is just that when I started to really believe I deserved good, the blessings came. Good came. And I say thank you for them. But if you don't believe that you are worthy, whatever good comes to you, you will destroy it.
You'll miss it.
And that's
You'll
one
miss
of
it.
the
Yeah.
things that the church, that organized religion, made a mistake on. And people, they get in a relationship and they can't keep it going because they don't really deserve, they don't think they deserve to be happy on a deep level. They may not say it, but you can tell. So that was transforming for me. The other thing was, and I'm going to reiterate, is that mostly everything in my life that I've ever wanted, I got. The positive and the negative. But I learned, and I'm learning to focus on the good. And, I have a lot of issues around money because I was raised with scarcity. Never enough, never enough. My parents, their parents grew up during the Depression. So there was never enough.
Right.
But if I say that the universe is abundant and that there's more than enough, I start to get more than enough. And I got that once after I had a contact. I was meditating, and I noticed that whenever I thought of something, if I thought of a car, it showed up. I'm not just talking about material stuff. If I thought of a friend, their face showed up. And I got that I said, oh, I get it. What you're saying is, if I can see it, I can have it. And that's true for the most part.
So now we're talking about manifestation.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a spiritual
Yes.
discipline. And but if you don't believe you deserve anything, you're not going to manifest because you don't believe you deserve it. Because you're miserable, you're a sinner, you're a blasphemer. And that's the big mistake. That's a big mistake.
That's a good lesson.
It's important. I have to be reminded of it. I remember we just bought a house in this climate, in April. And, my church is not large. I do a lot of extra stuff to make money. I write my books. I speak at different churches. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I do readings for people. So I have multiple streams of income. And I'm not wealthy, but my needs are taken care of. But when we moved here, it really stretched my budget. I used up most of the money I'd saved. And that day we were driving downtown Asheville and I saw some homeless people. And it dawned on me, I had, you're talking about, you'll get your money back, but these people don't even have a house. And so I had to calm myself. I had $20 in my pocket and I gave it to one of the people just to make, just my way of saying thank you.
Yeah.
2 days later, 3 churches called me to preach later on in the year. So when you want something, you got to give it away. Because you're saying to the universe, I got this. I trust you. And it's hard to do that. Someone else may have something else. Maybe it's shopping. Maybe it's sex. Maybe it's alcohol. But whatever it is, you have to see yourself where you want to be. And it happens more than once. But, when I get crazy about, am I going to have enough money? Today I was supposed to get a raise. They forgot to put it in my check today. I was nervous because I had budgeted for this and blah, 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 blah. And I had to calm myself down. And I took a couple phone calls. It'll be taken care of. What they didn't give me today, they'll give me Tuesday. I'm just sharing some of my issues.
Right.
But I had to talk myself down. And even if they didn't do it till the end of the month, I'm not going to starve. Anything I ever wanted, I get.
Hmm.
The universe provides.
Yes.
I just have to believe it. I just have to believe it.
That reminds me of when I was on my trip to New York. I went to New York for Pine Bush conference they have,
Yes.
and I stay at producer Bill's house for almost 2 weeks. But anyway, it's a for me it was a 3.5 day trip there and a 4 day trip back. For driving. You know, I like driving. I don't like to fly. I just have a problem with the just. I don't know if I'll come down safely or whatever. I'm not afraid of dying. Don't get me wrong. I don't want the sudden impact of a flying. So I prefer driving. I'm on the ground. I'm level, everything like that. But what was interesting was I because of the gas prices being so high, I ran out of money to get home. And I had my donation thing set up for the gas money, and people were donating gas money so that I can get home.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing.
And you got
Like,
home.
like you said, when you asked again, I got home, everything was fine.
Mhm.
I of course, everyone is my friend. I said thank you to everyone that helped, and just the amazing thing that what if you don't ask, you'll never receive it.
You'll never get it. I look at when I look at the feeding of the, well, in one story it's 5,000, others it's 4,000. But I always notice, and you've heard this, Jesus thanked his Father before,
Hmm.
and it's almost like saying, I know before I need it,
It's already done.
it's
Mhm.
Yeah,
already done.
yeah, yeah.
And it's
But
easy
yeah,
to
that's
say
just
that.
something what you were just
But,
talking about.
yeah, when you get when you get a little nervous, but that's what it is, and that's a
Yeah,
law. That's not personal. It's not Christian. It's not Buddhist. It's not Muslim. It's not. That's
it's
the
law.
law that what you put out comes back. It's not personal,
That's
and
right.
if you give it
Mhm.
away, it comes back.
One of my friend Kathy, one of our good
Unbelievable.
friends, Kathy, she said in the chat on the live chat when I was on the StreamYard doing the live drive, and she said, well, now we can't leave them stranded there. We got to give them some donation. So all
Yeah,
of a sudden, people were donating like gas
Aw.
gas money here and there and all that stuff, and I was like, wow. I was able to buy gas at a gas station that was closed. They had to pay at the pump thing, with the phone. You can
yeah,
use your phone, and that was pretty damn cool. You just go up there and get your gas. The thing's not even open. You don't have to talk to nobody. Just go and get
yeah.
your gas and
It's
go.
amazing. It's
And
amazing
but
how that
that
works.
was all because people were helping me
Yeah,
get back. And
yeah.
that's amazing in itself. 'Cause not everyone has a whole lot of money now, but when you ask again, if you don't ask, you won't receive.
Mhm.
And if you sit there and cry about something you don't have and you don't get it, then that's your own fault because you didn't try to, you didn't ask. you know?
Well, you can't. What's the old saying? You can't let the things you want make you forget the things you already have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll be happy to help people where I can.
yeah,
When I'm able to, I'll help people where I can.
yeah. We all
Financially or if
do.
it's with
We
with
all
my
do.
conversation. And like I have my radio show. I do my music. I play. Kimberly's a musician. She plays music. And so we play her music on our channel, on our
Yeah,
station, and she's all over the place, and she posts some of the songs that she plays on her radio show's Facebook page. If you're part of that radio shows, the name of the Facebook page group, and
Mhm.
we play a lot of, or we post a lot of event things that happen there. Different people that have their different creations that they do, and that's what I try to do for that page. I let people post their events that they got going on. A
Yeah.
book that you might have out, Michael. If you have a new book out, you can definitely post it there if you
okay.
want.
Thank you.
So you have another place where you can post your book. as you get them, or if you have a talk that you're going to be at, a special conference that you're going to be at, you can, post it on there saying, I'm going to be here at this place, come and join me,
Oh,
whatever.
wow. Well, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, because I'm going to be in Michigan in September. In my book, this book is almost a year old. It's the latest book, but it's almost
Go
a
to
year
go to my Facebook page group. It's called Earth Radio Shows. Real easy. Earth
Okay.
Radio Shows.
Earth Radio.
And Earth Radio Shows. And you go ahead and join there, and I can make you an admin. I can just give you the admin status, and bam, you can post anything you want on there, and it just give you more freedom to post things without having to ask, hey, can I post? You don't have to wait for me to approve it or nothing. You just go ahead and
Right.
you just go ahead and post what you
I
want.
may do that. Let me ask you this, because it's past my bedtime.
All right.
When is this going to air?
It's
Or is
airing
this it?
right now.
It's live now.
Okay.
It's live now. It'll be on my YouTube channel, Earth Radio YouTube.
All right.
So,
I'll look for it.
If you go to YouTube, you just put in Earth Radio and search for Earth Radio, and you can subscribe to that. But you can find all the shows I do there, and it's live on.
I'll do that.
It's live on Facebook now too. Facebook Live and Earth Radio.
Okay. I want to thank y'all for having me on.
But yeah, we do it live.
Lester, thank you for asking to have me back.
Thank you for coming.
And,
thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I really wanted to talk to you and meet you. I was
And,
fascinated by listening to you.
Yeah, that's right.
I enjoyed this a lot.
You're my neighbor.
I've been writing notes over here.
We are
Yeah.
neighbors.
I've been making notes.
Well, you know where to find me.
Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time to be here, and always a pleasure to have you on the show.
I have a group too. I can send you an invite if you want to come. You can advertise your books and stuff where you're going to be at and all that.
Send me an invite.
I'll do
There you go.
You take care of yourself, brother.
All right. Yep. Thank you, Michael.
All right. Be safe.
All right. You have a good night.
Have a great weekend.
Night, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Went to bed soon. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
I enjoyed it.
Good night, Esther.
And
Good night,
Ronald,
Charles.
Ronald, I'm going to message you about the preacher's wife. You got me curious. So I'm going to message you later about that on Facebook.
About what now?
What?
The preacher's wife smoking in the parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to say, what's wrong with that? I'd have been with her.
Well, she said she would quit. She mentioned that she would quit when God tells her to quit. Well, the Bible tells you not to have any unclean thing in your temple, right?
You know, I really enjoy him. I mean, he will not let nobody put him in a box.
No, I know that.
I admire that. That's hard to find.
Well, I knew that would be a fun conversation with him, and
yeah, it was.
Like I said, I could.
It really was.
I could sit there and listen to him all night if he was talking.
It was interesting for sure.
Yeah, and Charles, I hope you find your answer.
Okay.
What?
I guess everybody left us.
Yeah.
I told Charles to get his answer.
No, I guess I got the answer I needed.
Well,
Yeah.
was it?
It may not have been the answer I wanted when I came in, but I got the answer I needed.
What
There you
was
go.
You know,
Charles, what was the question again?
Oh, I wanted to share. I guess I needed to share my experience with him, because I absolutely thought that he was the person who had shared that experience so very similar to mine on an interview with someone. And I swore it was where he had talked to Alan, but I apparently was wrong.
Are you talking about your out of body when you
Yes.
drowned?
That is something I would like to have happen. I would like to see two people in a conversation who had such a similar experience to share that experience. Okay. I think it would be like,
You'd be remembering.
well, yes, and because it's not a describable experience, really.
Right.
It is something that is beyond words. And I've heard people eloquently talk about this.
You and I talked about that.
Sure. But I've never had someone an experiencer share their experience with another experiencer. Okay. And
Well,
I'm thinking
who was that one?
energy.
Who was that one woman that was on with AJ? And this goes way back, probably maybe 2 or 3 years even.
Okay.
But it was the woman that was riding her bicycle and she died.
Yes. She was from
And-
Denver. She was a competitive cyclist, I think.
Yeah, she was riding.
And her experience touched me also because there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, she was dead and she was out of her body and she was thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Her in her experience and in a couple of other people's experience, there's something that's fascinating about that people relate. Okay. And that is, you look back at your body that's torn up or dead or struggling. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't feel anything.
Right.
There's no fear. There's no disgust. There's no
Right.
worry. There's no concern. Okay. I mean, you wouldn't, if it were a stray dog that got hit by that car. Okay. You would not look at it with no emotion, but from your perspective on the other side, shall we say, you look at it and there's no reaction. You're still just there at accepting and at peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I like that.
I've enjoyed being on here, and my battery's about to die on the computer. So I'm going to sign off.
Well, hey,
Well, thank you for
thank
coming,
you.
Kimberly.
Thank you, Kimberly.
we made it past midnight.
Thank you.
We made a good mix.
That's like a good, yes, we did a good job today. And I'm glad.
Yeah, I want to talk with Esther sometime about South Carolina.
I'm glad I got my nap this afternoon.
You don't want to come here. Trust me, you do not want to come here.
I used to live in Lexington, and I used to go to college in Greenville, so I already know the area you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
You know better then.
And I know all about I-26 headed to Nashville because I've been that route a lot going to Tennessee.
I took a
Anyway, good night, everybody.
good night.
Good night, Kimberly.
And
Sorry,
I'm gonna
because
head out
this
too.
is about.
So
All right, yep.
see y'all later.
Yep, it's time to get going. Thank you, Esther, for taking time out. And
Thank y'all, and thank you, Ron, for getting him.
yeah,
That was exciting to meet him.
Everything worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, enjoyed this. Try not to say too much. I was taking notes here because I really liked when he said, "Stay in your lane to have peace." So I'm going to remember that all weekend.
Yeah.
It's funny how you can pick up little tidbits
Good
to
night.
help you along your own way from other people. That's what I try to do.
Well, he'll be back. I'm sure
I
he'll be
take
back
notes all the
and
time.
connect with them on Facebook, and he'll definitely connect with you and talk to you. Don't be shy. He's not anyone to be afraid of. He's a really down to earth, grounded individual.
Don't be
And,
shy. I don't know anybody shy.
But yeah, so if you have questions about something, or if you have a thought that comes to your mind and you wanted to share it with him. He's very open. He'll listen to you.
Kimberly's up there singing all the time. I would pass
Yeah.
Slim out. Speaking of being shy.
I think I'm talking more than I sing some days.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay. Good night, y'all. This thing's about to click
All right,
out
good
on
night.
me here.
Good night. Bye.
Good night. God bless.
And then, all right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and we'll see everybody on the next one. All right. Bye-bye. Well, I'm going to